We got to get to our guy Cole Bagley, who's back in studio. Of course, we're here at John Watson Chevrolet in Ogden for the Player of the Week honors, KSL Sports, and John Watson Chevrolet, the Player of the Week honors for the Northern Utah side of the prep football. And man, there's going to be some superstars showing up. Man, it's going to be awesome. Cole Bagley on the program here with us. Cole, man, it was I think an 11-1 stretch after the two games that they had where they win 7-0 and 4-1, and then they end up in Calgary and the 2-0 loss. I was watching that game, and I know that Vitek had a good game. I thought he was fine between the pipes. You can't play your goalies every night, but at the same time, like, there was zero offense that night. It just seems like all the stuff that was going their way in those prior games wasn't happening in Calgary. So we were hoping they were going to finish 500 on the road. They didn't end up doing it. But what's changed with this team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they found the back of the net. But to be honest, I don't know that anything's necessarily changed. Not to downplay those two wins, but, Vancouver's the worst team in the National Hockey League, and the Ducks were playing their third and fourth string goaltenders. Again, there were good things that they did, and you like that there was actually energy. And that's something that we've talked about all season long is, whether this team wins or loses is very much dependent on them choosing to play a specific brand of hockey. Nate Schmidt even said that after the Flames loss. And, I believe that style is just an energetic style, a committed style, a communicative style. So we'll see how these next few games go. Obviously, it's tough that they're going to be without Logan Cooley, but I don't know that anything's changed just yet. I think that was more so a response to where they found themselves on the road trip. Bill Armstrong sat the guys down after they lost in San Jose and said enough's enough. We need to it's playoffs or bust for us. We need to figure this out. So they responded well. I'm not, super high on that being a season, turning point for them, but we'll see how these next few games at home go.
Yeah, this team has had so many ups and downs and adversity and challenges, and now Cooley out. They said indefinitely. We have no idea. Do you think this is a more long-term thing or a more short-term thing based on what you know about the injury?
It's a tough question. Obviously all of this would be, speculation. I would guess he's out maybe a little longer as opposed to shorter term. If you go back and if you watch especially that aerial view of his injury, his leg was doing all sorts of weird bending, along the post. And, if it was a broken bone, I think it would be obvious and we would know what was going on. To me, again, this is just my own speculation. Having played the game, and actually I tore my own ACL playing hockey. Not to say that he's torn an ACL, but I would guess it's more so a ligament, in his knee. Just with the way that leg bent, it did not look good.
So with that said, I mean, whether it's a week, a month, 2 months, whatever it is, they're going to be out with it. They're going to be without him for a while. How do they compensate for that loss? What do they do? Because that's a massive player to be missing out of your lineup, especially offensively with what he brings.
I mean, everybody else has to step up. I think the positive thing, if you will, is a lot of the guys on the team have been underperforming. Numbers are down pretty much across the board, amongst the top six. Dylan Guenther, Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, JJ Peterka, Baird Hayton, like all of those players have not been playing up to expectations. And so there's at least room for growth. There's room for improvement, which is a positive. And if they can dig deep and they can, all step up, I think they'll be, I think they have an opportunity to be just fine. And then, they've got some young guys that have come up. Daniil Boot has looked really good in the 3 games that he's played. Still searching for that first goal, but I don't think it's going to take him very long just with the, his size, his frame, the game, the style that he plays, how much he, kind of hangs around the net and the shot that he has. I don't think it'll be much longer before he scores. And if he can, get on the board, every couple games, that'll be helpful. But to me, I look at guys like Keller and Guenther and Schmaltz, and, they really need to step up in light of Cooley being out, no matter how long it is. Whether it is, like you said, whether it is a week or two or whether it's a month or two, those guys have got to step up here.
As you talked about these guys coming in, and there's a little bit of a function of, hey, we send guys down and bring a couple other guys up just for that punch in the gut for the whole team to kind of, maybe get a fire under them. And the energy level, it's crazy because people were wondering about the effort. Do you see the same thing when they were talking about, like, hey, this team's not trying hard enough? Like, in my mind, I'm like, I want to know what that indicates, not just wins and losses. Like, what is the thing that people look at and they go, there's not enough effort there?
Yeah, I think a lot of things. If you've listened to some of the post game interviews with the coaches and the players, it's the simple details in where their effort is not being exhausted. They're losing their battles. They're not winning pucks in behind the net. If they're dumping and chasing, they're not getting that puck back and reloading and having sustained offensive zone possessions. They're not putting guys in front of the net. I picked apart their power play last week after so they played Dallas. Are they still worse in the league? That's the question. I think they're either worse. They're either the worst or they're the second worst.
Yeah,
they were 5.7% over the month of November, which is just that is entirely unacceptable. But I compared their power play to Dallas, which they're the best in the league. They're scoring one almost every third power play. Dallas is putting the puck in the back of the net. So it's not exactly fair to compare in terms of performance, but what I wanted to do was I wanted to look at how Utah attacked on the power play as opposed to how Dallas attacked on the power play. And Dallas showed Utah exactly how to do it. They scored 2 power play goals against them last week when Utah was visiting on the road. And how they did that was they got bodies in front of the net. They got bodies to the net. They were rotating players, in their offensive set. They were, pulling defensemen up high and then, forcing forwards to cover down low. And obviously that's going to, create mismatches and whatnot. And that's exactly how Dallas scored 2 goals. Utah doesn't do enough of that. They get into their set and they just sit there. Keller's on the right wing, Gunther's on the left, and they just go back and forth between Sergachev and those 2 players, and it's predictable. And so, that to me is where effort is lacking, is just those small, minute details of winning your battles, being willing to go and play in the dirty areas, and just giving all that you have. I think the only players on this team that have really done that recently are Lawson Krause, Ian Cole, Michael Carcone, and Liam O'Brien. And, Vejmelka started to kind of get into a good groove. But, yeah, for me, that's where that effort is lacking.
All this team's been through, and I'm looking at the standings right now, and, yeah, it's still December. It's still early. But they're right in the mix. They're hanging on there. They're at 31 points with Edmonton and San Jose. They'd be in the wild card spot right now, which is better than they were last year at this time. Overall, big picture, is this team in a good spot right now considering what's ahead with the schedule? Probably lightening up a little bit. It's been pretty road heavy. Despite all the challenges, is this team still in a good place?
Yeah, the silver lining, as hard as we are on them and as much as we can pull things apart, they're in a good spot. They're arguably right where they the front office anticipated they would be. Given the division, there is no way that this team is going to take one of those 3 spots. Colorado is far and away the best team in the National Hockey League. Dallas isn't too far behind, and Minnesota has started to kind of gain some traction. So, for
it's
Utah,
kind of interesting.
Go ahead.
It's kind of interesting. One thing that I was looking at with that, because it's all that 7-game win streak that ruined us, right? Like, yeah. If they got to this record in a different way, we probably would be speaking about this differently. Same
100%.
Exact record, we would talk about it differently because the 7-game win streak.
It's just been the swings have been so high and so low.
I know.
That you emotionally, I get what fans are going through right now. You emotionally go through those swings, and I think that's what they're experiencing. You weren't finishing with your point, Cole.
Sorry,
I know it's a great observation that a lot of this, you're right, is tied to that 7-game win streak and just the massive highs and the massive lows that this team's been through over the last few months.
Yeah, the journey to this point is what's worrisome. Is the fact that, they ripped off 7 in a row, and then I think they only won 3 of 12, and then it was like 5 of the last 18. That's where you start to worry a little bit, is they were so hot and then just completely cooled off. But like I said, the silver lining, they've got 31 points. They're in the second wildcard spot. With a win tonight, they can surpass Edmonton and jump into that first wildcard spot. Now, of course, Edmonton will have an opportunity to retake it tomorrow, but that's like they're 14-13-3, and I bet if you were to look at the front office, back in September and say, hey, you're going to be 14, 13, and 3, early in December, you're going to be in the second wildcard spot. They'd go, we'll take that. Now, like I said, it's the journey that's a little worrisome, and they've got to get things figured out, because right now it's not necessarily trending in a great direction. Now they are 4-6 over their last 10, as opposed to I think they were like 2-8 over the previous. So this is a fragile time of the year. This is when teams really kind of start to figure out who they are, and playoff hopes either die or continue to live on. So yeah, this is a critical month. And luckily the schedule, does clear up and ease up in January. So, a lot of positives and some opportunity here for them to figure things out.
Kings coming into town tonight. Delta Center will be hopefully rocking with a lot of fans who've been excited to get them back after a long road trip. What does this Kings team look like, and what can the Mammoth do here at home back on their own home ice against the Kings tonight?
This is a Kings team that's very good on the road. They're 9-2-4. They've actually struggled, quite a bit at home. But at the same time, it feels like everybody in the National Hockey League is just going through extreme highs and lows. They're 4-3-3 over their last 10. And so, I think it's going to be a fairly even battle. These are two teams trying to figure things out. Utah's been very good at home. They're 7-3-1. But then again, like I said, LA has been able to win a lot of road games. So I would expect a highly contested matchup of two teams trying to just gather some points, because LA is only 2 points ahead of Utah right now. Obviously, they're in different divisions, but points are precious at this point in the year, like I was talking about, and I expect we're going to see two teams who are just battling to make sure that they get two tonight.
The Avs, by the way, I was just looking at this, Cole, and it's crazy. The Avalanche have 115 goals on the season. The Mammoth are at 90. Like, that's a scoring machine. Like that's who you're up against in this division. Like, really, and the two of the highest scoring teams in the entire NHL are the Avs and the Dallas Stars. Like, these are the teams that
those
they're
are
up
the two
against.
highest.
And the Ducks have 107.
Oh yeah, of course. The Ducks, just like where we thought everybody was going to be, Cole, right? Like the Anaheim Ducks.
You had enough problems. Now the Ducks are good?
Yeah, scoring 100.
The craziest part of that,
already, yeah.
The craziest part of those goals is, Colorado's goal differential right now is plus 49.
Yeah, that's insane.
That is 21 more than the next team, who's actually Dallas at plus 28. Ridiculous.
They're beating the brakes off these teams.
If Colorado doesn't win the Cup, it is the biggest choke job in the history of
They
sports.
have just 2 regulation losses.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. So
Wow.
It's almost 2026.
Darn it, that's who you're up against in this division. No problem. No sweat. Yeah, it'll be fine. Cole, puck drops at 7 tonight, 6 o'clock pregame on the KSL Sports Zone, yes?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks for hanging out, man. We appreciate it and all the work you do. Love reading the hat trick every time it comes out. I'm like, it's my first notification that comes to the phone after the game, and I'm like, I got to see what Cole said about this.
Well, make sure you
It's
guys are
great.
here next time I'm in studio. I show up and, you guys aren't even here to hang out. So
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sitting in
We're
JJ's
gonna-
chair.
Are you just spinning around?
Yep, just
spinning in circles?
Yep.
All right. Cole, we appreciate it, man. Thanks. Have a great
Thanks,
evening.
guys.
All right, there you go.